I'm always harping on the idea of saving a little money on groceries by focusing on using up the stuff we already have in the kitchen before we go to the grocery store. Saving a little money by delaying that grocery trip and not letting the things we have go to waste.
Well, what's there to eat?
That is actually the task that I am taking on in my own kitchen today. And while I do enjoy taking you guys through these kinds of videos and giving you very specific ideas for how to use up ingredients, I know that sometimes people don't have, the exact same things in their kitchen that I have. So today I'm going to take you through the process, like what is going through my mind when I am standing in front of my freezer, in front of my fridge, and inside my pantry and thinking about how to use things up, so that hopefully that will not only give you some very specific ideas, but give you sort of a framework of a process to use in your own kitchen.
Fine.
When I am standing in my pantry thinking about using stuff up, I am typically looking for open packages of items, because mostly I'm storing things that are non-perishable or things that take a lot longer to spoil. They have a long shelf life here in the pantry. We might have crackers or chips or something that would go stale, but mostly if a package is sealed, it's going to keep a little bit longer, whereas if a package is open, I feel like the quality of it is going to be compromised the longer that it sits in the pantry. So for instance, this box of pancake mix, it's not that it's necessarily gonna go bad. I mean, I guess sometimes these things can go rancid, but it's open and maybe the quality or the taste, won't be as good. Sometimes the acids that are in here, like the baking soda and stuff, it won't interact correctly if it's stored for too long in the pantry. So this is a thing that I'm going to try to use up. Also, the honey doesn't go there. It goes down here in this little bucket. I keep sticky things like syrup down there so that it doesn't make my shelves sticky, because that's so annoying when I go to pick something up and it's like stuck to the shelf. Ugh. The other thing I will do is make sure that stuff is visible. Make sure that it's put up front. Looks like that is an empty cereal box. There's a little bit of cereal here. I'm just gonna place these where they are in plain sight. Sometimes we'll even get them out and put them on the counter for a day or so to see if people will see them and eat them up. Because if they can't see it, they can't eat it. We've actually done a pretty decent job using up open packages across July too. I actually don't have any open packages of rice or pasta to use up. Looks like we're doing a fairly decent job there. Down here, these containers are empty, so they're ready probably to be cleaned out and refilled with something when I restock. We have a little bit of granola here. We can definitely make use of this with yogurt or smoothies over the next few days. Ooh, hey, are there any of these? Oh, yes, there's one left. Oh yeah, baby. Nothing like the last one. Finished. I think one of the reasons this is still hanging out in my pantry is because we tend to use this in small batches. Making pancakes would take a while because you have to make, 3 or 4, maybe 5 or 6 if you have a big griddle at a time. And also I have pretty small waffle irons, so I'm thinking about how I can use this all up in one fell swoop.
Let's swoop it up. I'm down.
So I'm thinking about muffins. Because when all else fails, if I want my family to eat something, if I make it portable, if I make it a portable food, they will eat it. It'll get eaten as they're coming and going from the house. And I noticed that there's not a muffin recipe, but there's a cupcake recipe on the back here. So I think I'll just follow this recipe, but not do the frosting and see what we come up with. When it comes to the freezer, my thinking is the same as with the pantry. I'm looking for open packages of things. So like this frozen meal right here, that's just like a single frozen meal. It's unopened. I know it's sealed inside. So I'm not as worried about using that up as quickly as I am this package of ravioli, which is already open and partially used. I also know that these pints for the Ninja Creamy are a little older. They've been in here for a couple weeks. They're still fine to eat, but I definitely want to use those up. So I'll probably spin those tonight and see if I can sell people on eating up that ice cream, or maybe this afternoon as a snack. These popsicles will probably not even last the day. There's only 4 in there. I'm also noticing a few packages of frozen fruit that probably need to get used up. Some things that just have like a handful of fruit left in them. Smoothie pouches. There's some frozen bananas in here as well. And I also noticed some yogurt in the refrigerator. So I think what I will do is just set those aside until tomorrow, and in the morning I will whip up some smoothies. The kids are often asking me to make those for breakfast anyway. Smoothies are not a hard sell any time of day, but especially in the morning, and especially if I make them. Couple other things I immediately noticed that have the wheels turning in my head. This right here is a package of pork fillets. And if you receive meal kits, you can probably tell this came out of a meal kit, and it was actually sent to us by a neighbor who doesn't eat pork. It was sent to them by mistake. So they sent it over here, and I've just tossed it in the freezer. And along with that, I noticed very close to it are these tortillas. These are the home style tortillas that Walmart has started to purchase. They do not last very long because they're made with fresh ingredients. They're delicious if you haven't tried them. Very similar to the H-E-B tortillas, although I will say not quite as good. So already I'm thinking some kind of like carnitas or pork taco situation, because I can toss this into the crock pot with some seasonings and let it slow cook, shred it up, and put it in the tortillas. I also have a bag of steam in the bag rice. I know I've had this for a while, and even though it's unopened, there used to be 3 packages in the box. I would love to get this out of the freezer. So I could steam this up at the last minute and just like toss it in with the pork in the crock pot, and then put everything in a tortilla. Maybe look around for some sour cream or Greek yogurt or some kind of dressing or something I can put on it, maybe some salsa, fresh tomatoes, and we could have some tacos. When it comes to the fridge, in addition to looking for open packages of things, I'm also looking for things that will spoil. For instance, these cherry tomatoes, my husband hosted a guys' night here at the house, and they went out and picked up some stuff to grill for the evening, so they probably use these for something. I know I did not purchase them, but these are not gonna last very much longer. They've been in here for a few days, and you know, tomatoes, they will spoil. So I'm gonna think about how I can use these, not just because it's an open package, but because it's something that is short dated. That half gallon of milk, also short dated. In fact, it's gonna spoil pretty soon if I don't find a way to use it up. This always happens to me with milk. I normally buy organic milk because my kids are not huge milk drinkers, and organic milk is ultra pasteurized, so it has a very long best by date. It will keep a long time in the refrigerator. We mainly just use it for like cereal and for cooking. But occasionally we start going through milk like crazy. Tell me if this happens in your house. We go from using like hardly any milk to going through a gallon of it in like a couple of days, maybe because the kids are just eating tons and tons of cereal, especially in the warmer months. So we had that happen a few weeks ago, and I picked up just this half gallon of regular conventional milk because I thought, we're gonna drink through that in a couple of days. Nope, that is not what happened. And now I'm gonna try to figure out what to do with this so that it doesn't spoil. I figured it out. I figured something out. Instant pudding. It uses so much milk. And I'm gonna use some milk to make the muffins that I mentioned earlier. And I've been keeping pudding mix on hand because we use a lot of the creamy recipes. So I will use the rest of the milk to whip up a batch of pudding. That usually goes very quickly in my house because my family loves it as a summer treat. I'm getting back into the fridge because I had a thought about the tomatoes that I saw in there. And remember, I picked up the raviolis from the freezer that I'd really like to use up. And I also saw that I had half a block of this Greek cream cheese. And I thought I could come up with sort of like a simplified version or a slightly altered version of the TikTok feta pasta. Remember when that was really big a few years back? Especially since I'm gonna be firing up the oven to make the muffins. I wanna get the most bang for my buck with that oven use, so I can throw together like a really easy pasta dish. By the way, if you're thinking to yourself, this refrigerator needs a good scrub down, you are absolutely right. And one of the reasons I am doing this today is because I'm gonna do a huge grocery haul tomorrow as I get back into filming and have several recipe videos that I'm sharing with you guys. So I need to restock the kitchen for cooking videos. And I'm definitely going to start by wiping down the fridge and the freezer. It's just so much easier to do if you will work on cleaning out and using up some of the food that's in it to begin with. With it being August, this right here like physically hurts me. I really don't want to fire at my oven, but I am determined to make this video for you guys. So I'm gonna take one for the team. We're gonna turn the oven on today. Sometimes people will ask me, why does it matter whether or not you use the oven in the summer if you have air conditioning? Because most of us down here in the South do air condition our houses in the summertime. The reason is because having the oven on can make the air conditioning have to work harder. It can make the AC unit work harder to keep the house cool. Because an oven, even when you're not using it, if you've been using it and you turn it off, it's still gonna put out heat for a while. Even a newer unit like this that has a fan, it's gonna put out a lot of heat. In fact, sometimes in the winter, that's a bonus. I will often, after I've used the oven, just open the oven up after I've turned it off and let the warm air come into the house because I'm paying a heat unit at that point to heat the house. But in the summertime, we try to limit the heat that we are creating throughout our house. That includes like when we use the dryer and when we are like running the dishwasher, although that one's not nearly as bad as running the dryer in my opinion. But if you were wondering like, what's the big deal if you have air conditioning? Ask somebody who's in the South why we don't like turning our ovens on in the summer. I think a lot of them would probably agree with me because it just puts out a lot of heat, and that's not something we want in our house, even if we are keeping it cool using air conditioning. I'm just slicing up these little grape tomatoes here, and I'm gonna pop them into a dish with the cream cheese. And the other thing that I found in the refrigerator was a little bit of, it's either blue cheese or gorgonzola. My husband and his buddies purchased this. I think they were making steaks on the grill, so I think they made some kind of like steak sauce, like some kind of blue cheese dressing or something to put on top of it, and it's left over from that, but I think it will work really well in this pasta dish. I'm just gonna pop this into the oven. Mine is at 375 because I'm trying to cook the muffins at the same time. So I'm just gonna pop that in. I'm gonna check on it probably after about 20 minutes. Sometimes it takes around 30 minutes until that cheese is softened up and the tomatoes have really softened up and I can stir it all together. Then we'll get our pasta going on the stove here to finish up that little dish. Getting the salt so I can salt this pot of water that I'm bringing to a boil, and once it comes to a boil, I'm gonna pop the ravioli in and cook those. It only takes a few minutes. One of the great things about using these for cooking, especially in the summertime. And the thing about the stove as opposed to the oven, especially since I have a gas stove, is that once it's off, it's off. Yes, the grates are still hot, but it does not put out near as much heat as my electric cooktops did back when I had those. I've only had a gas range for 6 years, and I did not know how much I would love it, but I do. When I had my electric cooktops, man, those things put out pretty much as much heat as the oven did because they stay hot for so long after you turn them off. So this has been another kind of lifesaver for cooking in the warmer months in Oklahoma. I actually used my scale to weigh out what was left of the mix, and I actually ended up having the equivalent of 3 cups of mix, and the recipe for the cupcakes only calls for 2 cups, so I am actually 1.5-ing this recipe according to the box directions. So in addition to the 3 cups of the mix, I need 3/4 of a cup of sugar, 3/4 of a cup of oil, 3/4 of a cup of milk, 3 eggs, and 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla, which I never measure. I just measure with the heart. Mix, mix, mix. I realized as I was making up the cupcakes that I didn't put quite enough milk in because I forgot to add half back on that measurement, so it should be closer to a cup. It calls for 3/4 of a cup when you use 2 cups of batter, so I added a little bit more milk to make the batter be the right consistency. I'm gonna get that into my 24-cup baking tray. It fits perfectly in my oven, and I did bump the temperature up a little bit. Sometimes it takes a little more heat for me to bake in that tray because not as much of the heat is getting wrapped around that tray as like a smaller 12-cup muffin tray. So it says they take 14 to 16 minutes. I'll probably still check on them around that time and we'll see what we come up with. I replaced all the bulbs in my kitchen with daylight bulbs to help with lighting for filming. And every time I walk in here now and turn on the lights, it's like, ah! Everybody in the family, we're all having like trouble getting used to it, flipping on the lights and being like, whoa, that is bright. That is so bright. But I'm finding that it does make a big difference. I definitely can tell a difference in the lighting and not having to like create that using other instruments. My oldest daughter was like, why don't you buy a ring light? And that's really helpful for creators that stay in one place to film or don't move around a whole lot. But because I'm moving all over my kitchen, as you've seen in this video, and in quite a few of my videos that's the case, it just is more of a hassle. So it was easier just to replace all of these bulbs so that they create kind of a brighter lighting so that you guys can hopefully see what I'm doing a little bit better. Okay, I have my cheese and tomato mixture here. And I'm just gonna be very careful mashing up these tomatoes because they will squirt a little bit and they are very, very hot. Then I'm going to just kind of stir to incorporate all of this cheese and the seasonings in with the tomatoes. Now I'm gonna dump in my cooked ravioli, stir it all together. And I think sometimes people pop this back in the oven for a little bit. I'm probably not even gonna bother doing that today because it's plenty hot. It's lunchtime and I'm hungry, so I'm super excited that this is ready in time for lunch and that I was able to use up so many items from my kitchen to make it. The Greek cream cheese is not quite as rich as like a standard cream cheese, and also I didn't have a ton of that gorgonzola, but still, because I used ravioli, which is cheese filled instead of regular pasta, it's a little bit rich for me. Would have liked to have a little bit of the pasta water too to thin out the sauce, but what I did was just put some cauliflower rice at the bottom of my bowl. This is a way that I stretch meals sometimes, and especially rich meals. It's a good way to get a vegetable in, and then it soaks up some of the extra seasonings or sauces in the meal. I think that's gonna cut back on the richness of this one just a little bit, but still pretty pleased with it. Okay, these look almost perfect. I don't know how they're gonna taste, but they have like the perfect little dome shape on them. I wasn't quite able to get 24 though, like the box said. Mine made 21, but that's maybe I overfilled my muffin cups a little bit, but I like that nice round top on them. Ever since YouTube introduced shorts and started pushing shorts on their platform about a year and a half ago, I have noticed a pretty significant dip in my viewership and in my views. It's been kind of frustrating. Well, I don't really have any control over that, so I'm just gonna try to get better at making good content that people wanna see and putting out videos that are helpful and realistic. But one of the things that I have heard through the grapevine has happened, maybe amidst lots of YouTube updates or over the course of the last few years, is that some people are not receiving notifications anymore from channels that they've subscribed to and want to receive notifications from. So if you go to your YouTube profile in your app and you pull up the settings, I think you can do this on your computer as well, and you go to notifications down here in the list, you can make sure that you have notifications turned on, and probably what kinds of notifications you want to receive when the channels that you're subscribed to are posting new videos. The other thing that really helps if you've noticed that you're not seeing videos in your home feed from channels that you like to watch is to make sure that you are engaging with those videos and those creators somehow. So if you leave a thumbs up, if you leave a comment every now and again, even if you're not doing it every single time, usually YouTube sees that you want to see those videos. So when that creator puts out new videos or there are similar videos coming out from other creators, it usually will try to suggest those to you and put them into your feed. I am so excited about dinner tonight. I found some jar queso in the fridge, so I put some of that onto my tortilla with my pork and rice mixture. And I didn't have any sour cream, but I did have some non-fat plain Greek yogurt. It's Fage. I really like this brand. It just seems like thicker than some of the other brands. And then I decided I might as well grill the burrito, like toast it so that it's crispy on the outside. Can't wait to try that. And I had some bell peppers in the refrigerator that I needed to use up, so I just chopped those up and threw them into a pan to heat up and saute. Some chips and salsa on the side. I'll be honest, I'm probably gonna have another one of these when I'm done. Yum. I just put out a huge compilation of pantry cooking inspiration. It was like 50 minutes of pantry cooking recipes, like I think 25 recipes across 3 years of videos like this one. So if you are looking for more encouragement or inspiration or just ideas for how to use stuff up, be sure to check that out. I will leave it linked in the description box below. It's also gonna pop up right here along with something else YouTube thinks you might wanna watch next.